Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the public meeting of the Toronto Community Housing Corporation Board's Tenant Services Committee meeting to order. I'm Mary Hogan, Chair of the Tenant Services Committee, and I want to welcome everyone to today's hybrid committee meeting, which is taking place both in person at City Hall and virtually via WebEx. And just a personal comment, I want to say I'm so pleased and happy to be here as the new chair of the Tenant Services Committee and also a very new member of the board. So I'm going to ask that you bear with me today because this is very new for me. But I'm sure that it will get easier. And as I said, I'm just very happy to be here. I think it's a wonderful corporation that can do so much, and being on the board is a great honor. So, having said that, I'm going to begin with an acknowledgement that the land each of us is on as we hold this meeting is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat people, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. We also acknowledge all treaty people, including those who came here as settlers, as migrants either in this generation or in generations past, and those of us who came here involuntarily, particularly those brought to these lands as a result of the transatlantic slave trade and slavery. We pay tribute to those ancestors of African origin and descent. Now then, I'm going to ask the members of the board if they have any conflicts of interest to declare. Okay, then there are no conflicts of interest declared for any agenda item. Next is the approval of the public agenda items. So now I know I have to ask for items to be held. Is that correct? Yeah. And please excuse me because I'm going to be asking the great staff members I have around me for some support and help today as we move through this. So, okay. Now I gather 7B on the agenda has a presentation, so it will be held. And what about other items on the agenda? Okay, item 6 then. Others?
We also have deputations on 5, 7B, 7C, and 7A as well.
Right, okay, and I'm being told we have deputations on 5. Yes, I had these noted actually. Let me know if I've missed any of them. 7B, 7C, 7E, and have I missed anything then? Okay, great, so I have those. And just give me a minute here. Okay, so I think that was all. Now I'm to ask if I can have a motion. Now, are there any that aren't being held that we need a?
The minutes and 7D.
Okay, that's it, right. Thank you. All right, then I will need a motion to adopt the recommendations in the reports, I guess, with the public meeting agenda.
The agenda, the minutes, and 7D.
Okay, so it's simply the agenda, thank you, the minutes, and item 7D. So if I could have a motion? Sorry, and 7. Hang on, just let me see. You're right. Okay, I think I'm going to ask that held as well because I think I had some questions on that. So, okay, 7. All right, Dan, Director McIntyre, did I see you making the motion?
Accept the agenda, yes.
Okay, is there a seconder?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor then? Okay, that one is approved. All right. So everything on the agenda except the items that have been held are approved. All right, then the first item is item 4, which is the confirmation of the public meeting minutes of the last meeting.
So we approved that as part of the.
Oh, we did. Sorry, thank you.
So you can just go right to 5.
So now, okay, great. So now I can go directly to item 5. And I believe we have 2 deputations. Yes.
So one of the deputants for item 5 is Ms. Wright, I believe.
Yes, Catherine?
The other deputant is Mr. Avila, and I don't see either of them.
Ms. Wright was supposed to be online and she's not here, and Miguel was supposed to be in person and he's not here.
Okay, so what's the normal practice for that?
It's at your discretion, but we can either choose that since folks are not here, that we bypass that, or we could also choose to hold it and come back to it should they
Okay,
show up.
sure. All right, then it would be my, I think, decision that let's hold that meeting, or those items. I mean, it's only 10 after 9, and hopefully they will attend, and then we can deal with it then, okay? All right. So that's held down. And then we have item 6, which is the Office of the Commissioner of Housing Equities, a biannual update. So I'm wondering if they're,
Generally, you would go to whoever held the item first. So
okay,
in this case, it was Director McIntyre.
right, okay, thank you. So Director McIntyre, I understand that you asked that this item be held, so I'm going to you. Yes.
Have you put your microphone up in front of you? There you go.
Yeah, I had read through the report a couple times. I found it very informative and helpful, and I found most times when I had questions, I found the answer somewhere else in the report. But I did want to ask on the floor about evictions or arrears that have exceeded $20,000. How does that happen? What are we doing to prevent that? And any comments that either the commissioner has or anyone else has to just what's happening there? I know in the private sector, the landlords always say, well, the tenant owes me $30,000. I always say, how the heck did you allow that to happen? So that's my question. How the heck does that happen?
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. So through the chair, it is something that we've identified that happened as a result of COVID. So that was the first thing that sent tenants into large balances. And we've been cleaning them up, working with TCHC over the last 2 years. So trying to move those tenants through the process and get supports for them to address the arrears. What we're finding now is we're working through those cases, but we're seeing a recent spike because TCHC is doing a cleanup of its loss of eligibility files. So a lot of these arrears are files where the tenants have lost their RGI, so it's putting them into the $20,000 range. And once the RGI is reinstated, the hope is that, well, the arrears will go down, so those balances will be reduced once those subsidies are reinstated. So we're working with TCHC on those, and one of my recommendations actually in this report was that we look and we do an analysis on how many files actually sit at this stage so that we can work together to support tenants and move them through this process. We're also looking at another recommendation that was made a while ago was a large balance pilot. So looking at cases where there are tenants who have these large balances and whether we can create incentive or write-off programs to support them to ensure they have a successful tenancy going forward.
And through the chair, what I will add is our arrears collection process is a progressive engagement process. So we start with text message communication, we then move up to letters, door knocks, and engaging with households. And we do find that that's quite successful most of the time. But there are tendencies where we have to go all of the way through OACH and the LTB, and we see larger arrears balances accumulate at that point. There's certain tenant households that may not want to engage with us. And so you see the arrears start to accumulate quite quickly. But I would say the major contributor in 2025 has been the loss of eligibility. And so we're seeing a spike in arrears related to tenants not processing their paperwork. And so you'll hear a little bit about that in the operational performance measures report. The other thing I would say is we focus on the high value arrears as our focus priority, and we kind of move backwards. And so we had a bit of a cleanup over the last, I would say, 18 months that really focused on getting those files into OACH. So these are files that we were working with locally, engaging with households, having multiple contacts. And so the top-down advice on that was to get as many of those files over to OACH so we can move things through. And so we saw a bit of a spike, I would say, in the last 12 months with those files because we specifically focused on them moving through the process. So that's where you would see it. Lindsay Vietz, our Director of Operational Planning and Program Services. I don't know if you have anything else to add there.
Excuse me, through the chair. Yeah, Nadia and Melanie have covered it quite sufficiently, but I'll just emphasize that that loss of eligibility is a factor, as well as the extensive work that our frontline teams do with tenants to preserve the tenancy. It's a priority throughout the entire process, and that can involve directing them to a repayment plan. Right? So that is absolutely a legitimate approach, and getting a high dollar value of arrears into a repayment plan is a way to stabilize the tenancy, as well as leveraging rent bank and housing stabilization fund if they're in receipt of benefits. Those are avenues that we explore extensively, and all of these things take time. And we encourage tenants to pay their rent even while they're in arrears, but sometimes it does accumulate to the extent you're seeing. Yeah.
Are any of the high arrears market rent tenants?
Through the chair, yes, we do see high arrears with market rent tenancies, whether they be market rent tenancies that have always been market rent tenancies and there's been a change in their circumstance and they fall into arrears, or through loss of eligibility, because what happens is when they lose that eligibility for our GI subsidy, they move to market rent. And those market rent numbers, you see arrears accumulation quite quickly when you're paying $1,000 or $1,200.
Has moved in as a market rent tenant.
Yes.
You wouldn't let that slide. I have two more questions. Sort of a test question to make a point. What does LRA stand for?
Through the chair, that's a local repayment agreement, so apologies for not articulating what it stood for.
I would tell everyone here I've been delighted with the wealth of information I've been provided, but I've never seen so many acronyms in all my life. So you passed the test, thank you. I just pulled one out just to say, and I had make a suggestion that maybe a compendium of acronyms, that so someone like me reading through a report doesn't have to go back 4 pages looking for the first reference to that. Then just, I don't know if that would work, because I think you got too many of them, but and a little bit less use of them would be nice.
Good morning, Dan. I was actually pleased to see that there was at the end of our materials a short glossary list. It's Debbie Douglas speaking. I'm online. There was actually a short glossary list at the end of this the materials this time around. But I absolutely hear you. It's a nonprofit sector. We're big on acronyms.
Very big. Yes, I did notice, as chair, I did notice that that list, and it was helpful, although I don't think it captured all of them, but yeah. Okay, are there any other
good practice
questions? Okay, I had a few. In the report, it talks about, there were, I guess in Q1 and Q2, there were 67 N4 checklists incomplete, which, as I understand that means missing documents or errors. It indicated that, in fact, that's supposed to be reviewed and approved by supervisors, managers, so that it doesn't get referred to OACH. It was, these were in the ones that were sent back, and I was just wondering what's happening with regard to ensuring that that does happen in the future. If I could ask staff.
So through the chair, we've looked at some of the strategic sort of capacity gaps with our supervisor staff. What we've been able to identify, there's a significant bandwidth issue. There's a lot of activity happening with the local supervisor, and so we're trying to put in place some supports so that they're able to oversee some of the files, and Lindsay can probably speak to more specifically what supports we're putting in place for the supervisors.
Through the chair and with input from Melanie as well, we're implementing pretty significant training for the managers and the supervisors of tenancy management. It's going to focus really heavily on case files. So we'll be working through cases with them with the expertise of folks within the company from finance, from OACH, and through our partners at the city to help us deal with some of these complex cases and really make sure that the staff are equipped to review these files appropriately. We're also looking at implementing additional tools to help them. So we have the checklist, which is useful, right? OACH uses it to assess the files, but there are other sort of summary documents or tools that we can implement to help the supervisors and the managers do that oversight. Absolutely.
Okay, and is that happening now? Because it seemed to be, it was, from what I read, that it was going to happen, but I was just wondering if it is happening now with the supervisors.
The training's happening in Q4.
Okay, so that's Q4. Okay. I also had a couple of other questions. I was just wondering, for those who have the rental agreements, or the agreements for rental arrears to pay them. I've got to get used to the acronyms too. It talked about a number of them being referred back for exceptional cases. I'm just curious for an overall view of what are the exceptional cases. And
Thank you. So through the chair, so exceptional circumstances, we look at it as an unforeseen circumstance, something that happened that was different from the last time we worked with them. So when OACH works with a file, we work very intensively we have a time frame, 45 days. So in that time, we're putting all the supports in place. So if a file comes back to us as a breach, we're really seeing, did something change in your circumstance, or what happened that made you breach this repayment, because we did spend a lot of time trying to broker it with the tenant. The most common reason we actually approve for exceptional circumstances is due to change of income. So maybe they lose their job, or they change and their income goes to Ontario Works, or sometimes it's an unexpected event, so a death in the family or something that leads to them having a loss of income. And I can include those in the next report if it's something the board is interested in. But it's also, I want to say, when we are approving for exceptional circumstances, the EROs make a recommendation to me. So they'll say, I think it's exceptional. And I, again, go in and I look and I see, did the tenant make the first payment? Is it the same reason as the reason before? Because we only want to be granting the second opportunity if it's really a valuable reason to, a valid reason to, not just because someone forgot to pay.
so I guess my question would be, why isn't that flagged prior to it getting to OACH? Because these were referrals back, and at what point does this happen, and should it not be caught first? Because it obviously takes some resources and whatever to have it referred to OACH and then have somebody there look at it and then it comes back and whatever.
Yeah. So through the chair, what happens is at the front line, OACH doesn't monitor the repayment agreements, it's the frontline staff. So they would monitor the repayment agreements when they're put in place. And if they detect there's a breach, what they're supposed to do is in the first month, contact the tenant to see if they can get them back on track. So to see if they can get them to catch up with the payments, so they're on track with the repayment. If not, it's at that point that they refer to OACH and we do the determination for exceptional circumstances.
I see, okay. So it can't be done earlier, essentially, is what you're saying?
No, because we give them until the end of the month in the first breach. So most tenants can catch up by if they breach, let's say on the 15th, we would give them until the end of the month to catch up. So, and then the following month it comes to OACH.
Okay.
Is that right?
It just seems to me that
That audio issue. There we go.
okay, good. It just seemed to me that if it's an exceptional. Okay, I'll try again. if it's an exceptional circumstance, it seems it might be known prior to, to the referral to OACH, because it seems to me it's not something that just happens quickly like that. Yeah.
So something that Melanie and I are actually discussing, as recently as yesterday, is exploring whether there are circumstances where our frontline staff can be empowered to sign a second repayment agreement when a case has already been referred to OACH and then come back to them. So we are exploring whether there's a set of criteria that they can follow that would allow them to do that without it needing to go to to OACH. There may still be circumstances when OACH needs to look at it, but absolutely, that's an area we're exploring.
Okay.
If I could maybe just add one thing as well, is we do have another recommendation that we're working on with TCHC, and it is looking at when we have longer repayment agreements, looking at them annually as part of the annual review process. So, and the hopes with that is that you would be looking at it at the same time. So if a tenant's income changed, you would know that, and you could proactively change the repayment agreement to something they could afford. We're not there yet. It's slotted to be done for next year in 2026, but that's the hope, is that we get to that point where we would be able to, for repayment agreements longer than a year, look at them annually.
Okay, thank you. I also just noticed, and this is something that came up during the orientation for the new directors, and it was something that I guess bothered me in terms of the annual review and tenants not having filled in the forms always correctly, and not having provided their notice of assessment. And I was told at that point that there were a number of tenants in those situations who were in fact in receipt of some form of, OW or ODSP, or perhaps others that, I'm not specifically aware of. And it seems to me that if we have tenants who qualify for those sorts of programs, that one would expect that they would qualify for RGI as opposed to suddenly being turfed onto market rent. And that's more of a silo problem, I think, in terms of the overall picture for a lot of our tenants who are supported by various programs, which would, in and of themselves, probably lead to eligibility, and then yet it gets to us, and there's no doesn't seem to be any way around it. Now, I was told there are some privacy concerns about that, but what are we doing to try and work our way through it? Because for so many vulnerable people, there are silos in terms of the various services that they receive, and it seems to me that somehow there ought to be an umbrella that says, hey, you don't have to do this, you don't have to do that. And sort of as part of that, I guess I'll just add on to that question, then I'll stop. But the collaboration with Wood Green in terms of taxes and whatever seems to be like a wonderful situation. And I know you talked in the report a bit about expansion, but are there some real, is there some reality to the expansion and other partnerships, or I know there's some other voluntary organizations as well, but it seems to me that that's a really important assist, I'll say, when we're dealing with this. So that's a sort of a two-part question.
So through the chair, maybe I'll start on the first part, and Melanie and Lindsay can comment further. We are working with our service manager, the Housing Secretariat, to explore just that. So we are looking at it twofold. We're looking at a retroactive reprieve on all of the loss of eligibilities associated with Ontario Works files and Ontario Disability Support Program files. And so that's been the focus of our discussions with the Housing Secretariat. We're cautiously optimistic that we'll be able to put something in place to reverse many of the loss of eligibilities we've seen this year. They are exploring conversations with Toronto Employment and Social Services to actually support that process. So we're working with the city to get that done. We've also asked for them to explore future states so that we don't get back into this situation. How we got here was just that. Like, there were a lot of frontline staff that were engaging engaging with households over the years, and they hadn't issued the loss of eligibility, so we became, there was a bit of a bottleneck on annual reviews that were not completed in a timely fashion, and so through that cleanup process, so that we could get back into compliance, this created a bit of a spike this year. So that's why we're working with the Housing Secretariat and Toronto Employment and Social Services to figure out how to address that. But that's a significant concern for us as well.
Okay.
So Lindsay and Melanie, maybe you want to comment on the wood grain piece as well.
Thank you. So through the chair, I just want to add one thing about wood grain. I think it was part of your question. And so OCH has been using it for the last year. And so we worked with TCHC in the city and TSHC, and now it's expanded to TCHC and TSHC staff. So we will be reporting out on it in our next biannual report. So we'll start reporting out on the data and the benefits it's showing for both corporations. So just wanted to give you that comment. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Oh, sorry. I apologize. Yes, Director Ubet has a question, I think. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning, everyone. And I'm just curious if a lot of tenants are using the rent bank through OCH. I remember somebody mentioned a few meetings ago that there's 5,000 that's available to tenants?
Yep, so through the chair, yes. So tenants are now eligible for up to $5,000 or whatever. If their arrears are less than that, let's say 3,000, they would be eligible for 3,000, so up to 5,000. And yes, OCH offers rent bank to every tenant that is eligible that comes through our office. So we do the eligibility assessment budgeting tool with any tenant that comes through and is eligible. Some are not eligible. Either income might be too high or they have different income supports that make them ineligible, but we do that assessment for each case that comes through our office.
And is a lot of tenants aware of that service is available?
Through the chair, yes. As I said, we advise each tenant of the program and we support them through the process. I'm not sure, I know that the city is now starting to advertise it, so it's going to be expanded in a different way. So I know there's changes to the system that just happened this week. We were just trained on it. So I think it's going to become more public. So it will be more information will be out there for tenants to know about it. But like I said, whenever someone comes to OCH and is eligible, we will let them know about the program.
For sure, thank you. And I remember Lindsay mentioned about the ARRS. If it's ARRS is a lot of money, then we're working on to waive that. And I remember some of us asking that a year ago, a couple of years ago. And thank you, that's really amazing initiative. Is that on a process or that is happening now where if somebody owes 20, 30, 40,000, whatever the amount is, and they cannot pay that amount, is there a system where now we can either waive or waive half of it, or that's still on on progress?
So through the chair, we are exploring an arrears waiving strategy. It's something that will go through the BIFAC committee. So we anticipate that to hit BIFAC before the end of the year and subsequently the board. So you will see an item on that. I don't want to get into too much specifics because we'll like to have that discussion in terms of what categories would qualify, but we continue to work on that.
Okay. All right, thank you very much.
Anything else then? I guess it was recommended in the material that this report be received by this committee for information, but I think it's a report that would be worth forwarding to the board for information. So I'm wondering if I could have a motion then, given if there's nothing else, no one else has any other questions, that we send the report or the item to the full board for information.
So it would be a motion to receive
and
forward to.
Thank you. All right. Motion to receive it. I'm getting the instructions here. Motion to receive it and then forward it to the board. for information. Director McIntyre, thank you. And seconded and all in favor. I see everyone's hands up, so passed. Okay, then we can move on to
So, yes,
items.
you held 7A yourself.
Yes, I did. Okay. Hang on. Thank you for reminding me. Okay.
Just a flag, one of the deputants who was here for, who wasn't here for 85 is now here.
Is that okay? I saw him coming in. Yeah, okay, give me a minute. All right, maybe. Actually, I was just being told, and I guess we can step back if that's all right.
It's only one of the two though, right?
Oh, should we wait? Well, maybe we'll wait a bit.
Yeah.
I see, is it Mr. Aviles is here? Yeah, as a deputant, but there were two deputants from before. So why don't we wait just, and we held them down. Why don't we just wait just a bit and see if the other one comes on this item, and then we can deal with them together? How's that? Would that make some sense? And I'm just looking here. I did have some questions with, okay. I think I was the one who asked that 7A be held done. That was the operational performance measures. So I'm going to ask first if anyone else has any questions to ask with regard to that, and if not, I'll ask a few questions, but. Yes.
Through the chair, I would also be happy to give some opening remarks if it's that.
Of course.
That's of interest.
Oh, I'm sorry. I guess I should give you that opportunity, and I apologize. Next meeting, I'll be more on the ball. Okay, yes, go ahead.
No worries. There are a few areas that I thought I would highlight in the report for the committee. So in the second quarter of this year, vacancies remain low at 1.59%, while at the same time we saw arrears increase by approximately $600,000 over the quarter. Analysis on the arrears numbers indicates that an increase in tenants who have lost RGI eligibility or failing to complete their annual rent reviews is a major driver. Ensuring tenants complete annual rent reviews is a key compliance responsibility of TCHC as a social housing provider, and staff have been continuing to work to ensure that tenants are up to date with their annual reviews. Market arrears driven by the annual reviews process are often completely reversible, but requires tenants to submit the appropriate documentation. Q2's results also include a $200,000 increase in RGI arrears, including both rent and parking. This is an increase that we're monitoring closely. We're seeing continuing trends with respect to arrears increasing, and we're exploring several options to bring the levels back to 2024 levels. The Client Care Center experienced challenges in maintaining its service levels in Q2 of 2025, an increase in call volume and unanticipated staff vacancies due to internal promotions and leaves of absences were the primary contributors to an increase in average response time, from an average of 1 minute 44 seconds to 2 minutes. The longer response time resulted in a 20% increase in abandoned calls and a drop in service level from 67% to 63%. Management is developing a staffing plan to address the vacancies to better support the performance of the call center. And since the end of Q2, the call center has filled 8 of 9 vacancies. So happy to take any general questions at this point, and then I will throw to my team as needed.
Right. Can I ask if there are any questions? None? Okay, let me just, I think you answered a number of questions that I had, but let me just go back here and see. So I know I was concerned about the vacancies and whatever in terms of answering calls, but you've just told me that 8 out of 9 of the positions have now been filled, so that's good. And also with regard to residential arrears, I noted in the report that you're looking to implement a portfolio-wide partnership with Wood Green in terms of the taxes and all that. Now, has that happened, or is it just in the works? And is it going to happen, I guess I should also ask?
So through the chair, we have initiated the expansion of the partnership. We are focusing on files that are in arrears due to loss of eligibility so they could get their paperwork to come back into compliance. And so it's a focused strategy to roll it out to folks that need it at this point more urgently, and then we'll be expanding it further beyond that. So Lindsay, I don't know if you have any additional information on that.
Yeah, I can just add that the partnership with Wood Green initially started as a pilot project several years ago in one part of the portfolio. And as of early September, we had rolled out access to that service to the entire portfolio. So now all of our community services coordinators have access to the Wood Green portal and are actively referring cases into Wood Green, specifically, as Nadia mentioned, those loss of eligibility cases. Once we get through that backlog of loss of eligibility cases, then we will be able to be more proactive and refer people to Wood Green before they even lose their eligibility so that it doesn't happen at all. And we can refer up to 1,000 files a year.
Okay. Is it 1,000 because that's all they can handle?
That's the current funding. So it's actually an example of good collaboration between TCHC and the city and Wood Green because the city's funding the expansion. And so we're monitoring those numbers. And I would say if it's successful, as we expect it to be, that we would look to expand even further if there's capacity with Wood Green and the funding from the city.
Okay. Yeah, it would appear that, you know, given the number of tenants we have and they have the capacity for 1,000, there's probably a need for it to be much bigger, but I know it's always a resource problem, right? Yeah. Okay. Just give me a minute. Just give me a minute here. I guess just also in terms of the number of fires which were mentioned in your report, and certainly they've increased substantially, and there were some reasons given for it, but it talked about TCHC continuing to collaborate with Toronto Fire Services to raise public education and et cetera. So I'm just wondering what exactly is happening, and is it, I guess it's too soon, obviously, to tell if it has an impact, but.
So through the chair, I will ask our Senior Director of Operations to speak to that, but what I will say is we have a dedicated team, a small team, but a dedicated team around fire life safety, and so it is an area that is an ongoing concern for us, so we provide proactive education to tenants. We do lobby intercepts in buildings where we see the highest fire incidents or fire alarm systems going off, and so we do targeted outreach to support the tenant population, and we work with Toronto Fire Services to do that. So John, I don't know if there's anything else you'd want to add there.
Sure, through the chair. So as Nadia mentioned, we do have a dedicated internal fire life safety team. Primarily the team is focused on compliance management. So we do have a dedicated team of in-house inspectors that go around and sort of audit the buildings, certainly just to have a more proactive approach of remediating any identified issues. Another big arm of the department is working with TFS to roll out targeted education. Right. And we do that in a couple of ways. We certainly have information as it relates to the number of fires through the portfolio. We have insight to the violations across the portfolio. So we take all that, correlate it, and have a focused approach on how we do the education and public awareness of raising events. And we do have, in the coming weeks, another event in partnership with TFS targeted to several communities across the portfolio.
Okay, thank you. And I have one more question, then I'll stop. I looked at the report in terms of pest management, and I was just curious as to why in the central region there was such a large change, such a large increase. In fact, almost 39%. And what's that about? I guess I know you said it during the summer months, and it becomes a seasonal thing, but still at the same time, this was a much greater increase than the other regions.
So through the chair, we've been able to identify that in Q2 and Q3, we saw a lot more construction activity in the central area, and that drives some of the pest-related activities. So that has been a major contributing factor, just ongoing construction in the downtown core, essentially.
Okay, and so does anything further need to be done other than recognize the reason for it? But
So through the chair, absolutely. We're looking at a data-driven approach and a building-specific model. So we're doing building-wide pest treatments more proactively to try to address the concerns. Historically, we've had more of a responsive strategy, so we've shifted that a little bit in the last 18 months to a more proactive strategy. So we're identifying the most challenged buildings and focusing on as much proactive interventions we could put in place. We're also supporting the individual tenancies with any escalations they have after a treatment's done, so we make sure we follow up. The other thing that we've put in place is ensuring that there's tenant education. So we recognize that tenants could be a major partner in moving this work forward, and so we've supported a lot of targeted tenant education in those buildings so that the tenants continue to work with us to bring down some of the concerns in the areas.
Okay, thank you. All right then. No, yeah. Oh, okay, Director Douglas.
Please look to.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I was going to suggest that you look at the screen from time to time. I wanted to go back to the arson report. I was a bit taken aback, but not only by the increase overall in fires, and the arson reasons, but also the significant increase in the indeterminate causes of fires. Is there a sense who investigates these things, and are there trends that staff are seeing that they bringing forward in terms of why the increase in fires and why so many fires that we have no idea what the cause was?
So through the chair, I'll take this question. So the arson is a bit complex. So there's varying reasons for arsons. Obviously, there are malicious activities that occurred throughout the different portfolio. As part of our approach has been for the last several years, it's a joint effort between the Fire Life Safety Team, Community Safety Unit, and in some cases, Toronto Police Services. Each of these cases are investigated, and again, they're unique to each other. But we do have a process to investigate each one of them and ensure that we're taking lessons learned where we can. And in some cases where we need to take actions where we were able to, such as installing some of cameras, better lighting that would sort of thwart this type of behavior from occurring.
Where it was determined that arson was the cause, have there been arrests? Does Toronto Police report those things back out to us?
Yes, through the chair, Director Douglas, the arsons are investigated by Toronto Police in partnership with the Fire Marshal's Office, and the Fire Marshal Office has the expertise to provide the details whether it was deliberately set or not. Then Toronto Police would, in appropriate cases, lay the charges, and Toronto Community Housing CSU would provide the video if there is any information from an investigative standpoint that we have.
Okay. Director Douglas, anything further on that issue? No? Okay. Anything further from anyone else on this report?
I just want to make a comment. It's Uba. I noticed the vacancy percentage used to be more than 2%, and now is much lower than that. So I just want to say thank you to Nadia and her team, the whole team. It's good work. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Farah.
Great. Okay, anything further? Then I gather I need a motion to receive this report for the committee's information. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay, then. Somebody want to move that motion? Oh, Director Farah, thank you. All in favor? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to step back from it. I just see Director Douglas said she was having difficulty. I think that came up on the chat here, and there's the notice. Is that correct, Director Douglas? You still wanted, you have more to
yes,
say?
I was speaking, but I wasn't sure if you were hearing me.
I think we were.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so
Go ahead.
yeah, that was very strange. I was asking the questions around the arsonists, wondering if they are tenants or are they people from outside of our communities?
Through the chair, I think based on our experience, I think it's a mix of both. We've had instances where, yep.
Just in terms of where our responses should be. Okay, that makes sense. And about the education pieces, thank you.
Okay. All right, then, make sure no one else is, before I move on here. Okay, so then there was a I was asking for a motion which is to receive the report for the committee's information, and I think, I've forgotten, I think Director Farah, you moved that. Yes. Can I have a show of hands then? All in favor? Yeah? Okay, good. All right, then, that's approved. So we'll carry on, and well, actually, we'll go back now, I guess, perhaps, to the one that was held. Now, is the, Catherine Wright, is she here? Okay, so I guess we could go to all right, the next item, then that's fine. All right, then I'm going to move forward to item 7B, which is the electric micromobility device policy. And I'll have comments then to begin, I believe, from Nadia, is that right?
So we would go to the deputations first?
Oh, the deputation, okay,
Yes.
thank you.
No problem.
Again, I'm just learning here. So we have two deputants on this. And Mr. Avila, is that correct? Is one of them, I know?
And then Rafi is online.
Okay, and Ms. Birch is online as well. Good morning. Okay, all right, we'll start with, here we are, Mr. Avila. Of course, take your time, get settled.
Did you, Mary, is your name, right?
It is, yes.
Welcome to TCHC.
Thank you so much. As I said, I'm really thrilled to be here, so.
Did you already touch on item 5, briefing note on public action 2, tenant transfer policy?
Mr. Avila, we've held that matter down. You weren't here, and there was another deputant who wasn't here when we reached that item, so we've held it down to see if the other deputant shows up or appears at the meeting as well. So for the time being, it's held down.
My apologies, but corporate security hold me at the door because they detected metals on my body. I don't know. So that's the delay.
We won't forget about you on that item. We'll keep holding it down to see if the other one comes, and if not, we will come back to you on that. Don't worry.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you, everybody, for opportunity to address the Tenant Services Committee. I'm trying to show you what are we doing in Regent Park. Let me see. So I live at 220 Oak Street in Regent Park, and I have been an activist for 15 years, and the swap unit discussion has been brought forward from time to time. We have discussed the swap units. Is that what we're talking today? Sorry.
Yeah, I know. Okay.
Mr. Avila, we're
Oh, e-bike. Sorry, e-bike policy.
E-bikes, yes.
My apologies. I'm so mixed up today. So thank you for the e-bike policy. I know the financial constraints that you have to do the implementation of build up more enclosures for the safety and of the expensive e-bikes. You know, that costs a lot of money. I got 2 of them stolen from 220 Oak in 2022. So that policy will help to bring a little bit of calmness in the minds of people, because the main topic was always fires in the units. And by having clear language about what type of batteries is allowed to go up into the units, the charges, the model of the e-bike, et cetera, the insurance that goes with it, it is a good way to do it, to address it, because as you know, many of our residents have been using defected e-bike batteries and chargers. I am a bit disappointed, to be honest with you, because one of the major concerns is the damaged elevators that happens because we pile up too many people in the elevator. You have an e-bike, you have a senior with a stroller, a walking cane, et cetera, so it's very frustrating, unfortunately, but there is hope. I see my friend Noah. Maybe we can start talking about how we can use those $30 million that were allocated for 220 Oak Street in 2020, build up more those special enclosures with e-bike chargers, CCTV cameras, et cetera, beautiful things that we promised to the residents back in 2020. With regards insurance, there are different types of insurance. There is one that specifically covers e-bikes and bikes. I just want to let you know. I think it's TD Insurance. I'm not here to make any promotion with the bank, but TD Bank Insurance does cover e-bike and thefts, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, so I want to thank the team that produced this draft e-bike policy. It has captured all the deputants' concerns, safety, theft, vandalism. I think that brings a little bit of calm in the minds of the residents because, you know, fires, they all watch with horror that TTC video in December 2024 when it caught fire, an e-bike. And we haven't had no casualties, and that's the good news. Nobody has died yet, but we're on time to save lives. We're on time to save liability to the corporation, issues, you know, court costs, et cetera, et cetera. Thank you so much for this policy, and look forward to see maybe we can put some money and build more enclosures to protect our investments. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. And we'll come back to you later. We won't forget about your other deputation, okay? All right. I believe Ms. Birch, and I think, Birch, you're online, is it, right?
I am here.
Okay, terrific. And you have a deputation, I know. So go ahead.
I do. My name is Kathy Birch for the new directors. I am the founder and chair of the RPATH committee, which stands for Responsible Personal Accessibility in Toronto Housing. We are an external committee, meaning we are not governed by TCHC. But for the past 14 years, we have been working with Toronto Community Housing and advising them of what lived experience plus legislated training we have to help with accessibility in various areas of this corporation. We were consulted with for this e-bike policy. We did a lot of the research for legislated requirements, municipal requirements, to make sure that our policy would be consistent with all of those particular resources and research information. And I'm glad to say that we also made sure that we've met the plain language so that everybody can understand what a policy actually says and means. It's not all legalese and difficult to understand, and that's part of accessibility as well. So I'm glad to say that we're very pleased with this policy. We're glad that it outlines what is and isn't allowed in our buildings, and it should help with some of the challenges we have about e-bikes. And I'm going to encourage this committee to accept this policy as written and get it implemented and move it to board. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for your comments. Much appreciated. And now I guess I can turn it over to Nadia. Okay. And you should feel good. We've had two very positive responses here. So
Stay tuned. We have a couple more reports coming up.
Okay.
So fire safety is one of TCHC's key priorities, and Toronto Fire Services has been highlighting the risk related to e-bikes and e-scooters, and also has flagged it as the largest growing fire safety risk in the city. We have also seen a growing number of fires in our communities caused by these devices and their batteries. It is essential that we act to protect our tenants from this risk. And so after consultation with tenants and partners, including Toronto Fire Services and the City of Toronto, we're bringing forward an e-device policy that covers these bikes, scooters, and other devices. I'll hand things over to our Senior Director of Operations, John Ankow, who will walk us through highlights of the policy.
Good morning, Chair and committee members. As mentioned through the introduction, I'll be providing an overview of the work we've undertaken that has largely informed the development of the electric micro-mobility device policy, otherwise known as the e-device policy. The work to establish the policy actually was initiated earlier this year, and when it was initiated in particularly in response to the increasing feedback we were receiving from tenants about the safe usage of e-bikes on TCHC property, but as well the increasing trend of fires that we've been seeing across the TCHC portfolio. And for some context, over the last 2 years, we've had 8 fires that has involved e-bikes and lithium-ion batteries that's resulted in extensive damages and disruption to tenants across the different parts of the portfolio. And given the increasing usage of these devices across the city, we felt that this was an opportune time to look at this policy, formalize it, to ensure that there is a balanced approach to the usage of e-bikes and e-devices on TCHC property. As part of work we undertook, it was done in different phases, but essentially we worked with tenants, government partners, and industry experts to learn from their experiences, to seek advice from the experts, but also hear directly from tenants on some of the challenges they're seeing and concerns they have, but also some of the opportunities that they see in having the e-bikes being safely used on property. The initial work we did was what I would call the research and consultation. It started off by connecting with peer organizations who've had prior experience with this. Notably, we met with New York City Housing Authority, Ottawa and Windsor Housing. In addition, we consulted experts in the industries, which included individuals from Toronto Fire Services, the City of Toronto, but as well as the Technical Standards and Safety Authority. The second phase involved a much more targeted approach that involved connecting with our tenants, and we did this through different ways. We conducted a survey that was made available online and through the traditional paper-based method. Through this work, we were able to get feedback from about 6 to 8 tenants from right across the TCHC portfolio. In addition, we conducted focus groups, both in-person focus groups and online focus groups, which really allowed tenants to do a deep dive on topics related to e-devices and e-bikes and the prevalence of it in the city. Through that, we were able to get good feedback and good advice from 17 tenants. As well, we were able to do localized engagement at the regional level. We were able to attend the localized regional community action tables where we were able to connect with tenants directly to get their feedback there. We were able to also pre-select buildings where there's been a higher prevalence of e-bike usage, and we set up building intercepts. So those are essentially intercepts at the lobby where we would have the opportunity to have direct conversations with tenants about this. And last but not least, we were able to have the Tenant Advisory Committee review the policy and provide feedback in midsummer. And last but not least, we were certainly in close consultation with the city in terms of the alignment with the micromobility strategy and also with the ministry in relation to the Highway Traffic Act and making sure we can connect where we can. Based on what we've heard from the experts and our partners, their feedback really centered around key themes. It was clear that TCHC, in its effort to establish a policy, needed to outline the measures that would promote the safe use, safe storage, and safe charging of e-devices while on property. We also realized that we needed to capitalize on the partnerships that we have with peers and those in the industry, that we couldn't really do this alone, right? That we needed to get the advice of experts who have more knowledge in this space, as this space is constantly evolving in terms of the regulations around it. But also this was an opportunity that we all realized that there's an opportunity for us between those in government and industry to establish a more formalized partnership for information sharing to advocate for safety regulations. In Canada and the province, there seems to be a gap in terms of the informational regulations governing this area. And so that was identified, and I think there's keen interest among the different parties to work together moving forward. In addition, through the consultation with our tenants, what we heard loud and clear from both the surveys, the focus groups, is that they wanted to see the importance of education. They saw education as a key pillar in the work to roll out this policy. We know that for any adoption of policies, there needs to be a clear understanding of the requirements of the policy, and that type of understanding just involves large-scale sort of raising awareness throughout our tenants and throughout our communities. And they also wanted the policy to clearly articulate on what devices are allowed and not allowed in the different parts of the TCHC property. And last but not least, they advised us that, listen, this is a change in behavior, that part of your policy needs to acknowledge that there needs to be a graduated and progressive approach as we enforce the policy. So first starting off with education, warning letters, remedial action, and then in the worst case scenario, legal action. But that's something that we kept in mind, and certainly one of the key principles as part of the policy. As mentioned earlier, the policy was developed in a manner that is in alignment with the municipal strategy and provincial requirements. This slide simply highlights elements of that. So in terms of alignment with the city's micromobility strategy, it's aligned in a few ways. It's aligned by prohibiting the use of e-scooters on TCHC property, similar to how the cities ban e-scooters on all city property. It excludes assistive mobility devices and has a huge emphasis on public education and awareness. And second, it aligns with elements of the Provincial Highway Traffic Act as it relates to the definition of e-devices and with respect to specific alignment with how we refer to the weight and motor specs of these devices, and also the types of features that would be on these devices. So certainly all of that was contemplated as we look to put the requirements as part of the policy. Now, I would say that the policy has three main components. Obviously, the main one is articulating those devices that are permissible and non-permissible. The policy goes into great detail in terms of what these devices are, but largely they revolve around three things: the weight of the device, the speed limit, so the motor capacity of the device, and also the output, the power, the size of the actual motor. And I think this slide here, it probably best summarizes what the devices that are permitted and non-permitted on TCHC property. I'll walk through this briefly, but I'm happy to take any questions after. But if we're working from top to bottom, the e-bikes, which are your traditional, I think what you would say, bikes with that's outfitted with a motor and battery. So these devices will be permitted on TCHC property, be allowed to park in designated spaces should the building have these spaces. But these devices would be allowed inside the buildings, common spaces, hallways, elevators, and eventually up inside to be stored in the unit. E-motor scooters, which are larger in size, heavier in nature, larger motors, and also mopeds, which are not electric. These devices are permitted on TCHC property and also eligible to be parked in TCHC designated parking spots, but these devices, given their nature, their size, their weight, will not be permitted inside the buildings or units. And last but not least, e-kick scooters, again, consistent with the city's strategy, these devices will not be permitted anywhere on TCHC property. Another key component of the policy, in the spirit of promoting the safe usage of these devices, it does outline best practices for the safe storage, use, and charging of these devices. So for example, in units, there'll be a maximum of 2 e-bikes that can be stored at any given time. As well, when we consider transporting these devices through the hallways, we require individuals that they don't ride these devices, that when these devices are placed in elevators, that both wheels are touching the floor to prevent an imbalance. And again, there's additional details in the policy that outlines the safe practices. And last but not least, and again, this is I think where the rubber hits the road on this policy, outlines the measures we're taking to ensure compliance with the policy. And again, a key piece of this policy is focused on the progressive approach to educating and enforcing the requirements of the policy. So this will include education that our staff will be equipped to provide to tenants and communities on the ground. But if needed be, we do have a mechanism set up that would allow them to issue warning letters, remedial action, and in some cases, worst case scenarios, we have a procedure set up with TFS that will allow us to intervene and remove these items if we deem them to be high risk. And what I will say too, that we have existing mechanisms in place. So I'll use the examples of the annual unit inspections. So these are inspections that we're mandated to complete. These are inspections now that are equipped to identify the number of e-bikes and batteries in the units. So through this work, and we've started this work already, so through this work, we'll have a better understanding of the risk profile across the organization. And I think I can share with this group that we're about 50% in completing the AUIs this year. We've identified approximately 500 households, unique households that contain e-bikes. What that will allow us to do is actually help us in targeting the communication and education upon policy rollout.
Thank you.
Last but not least, I'll just wrap it up here. We are targeting towards a December 1st go live date. Part of that obviously is a tiered communication plan.
So there'll be a general communication plan to the broad tenant base. But again, using the information from the AUIs, we know the households that will have these devices, and we'll do a more targeted, focused approach, tightly created materials for those households. So we are looking for today for the committee's approval on the path to bringing this policy to the board, but I'm happy to take any questions and comments from the committee members.
Okay. Then are there any questions? Not seeing any questions. No? All right. I see.
I just wanted to say congratulations to the team for pulling this together, especially with consultations with tenants and the due diligence. Quite impressed. Ended up with sound policy, as you can see. So congratulations to the team.
Anyone else? No, I just had a couple of questions, and again, I would say kudos to the team. It's, I think, an excellent report. Just a couple of questions around, I know there seemed to be a concern about safe, obviously, for safe storage and places to be able to safely charge the devices. And query, are those spaces available at the various in the various buildings, and is there a thought of providing more, or what's the situation with just safety so that they don't have to be taking them up, you know, to their units and whatever?
So the feedback we received from tenants is that we need parking spaces in buildings that have a higher usage of e-bikes. However, at the moment, there isn't a building in the TCHC portfolio what I would say a designated e-bike parking space. What I would say is that's a phase 2 work, and that was deliberately done, given the nature and scope of that work, and also the sizable investment that would be needed for that. So that would be, I would say, the phase 2 of this work, right? Upon policy activation, the next work would be the same team to work with the city, a few stakeholders internally, to scope out what that looks like. Certainly, we want to make sure that there's a need for this. So part of this is conducting a feasibility study, engaging with tenants on the needs of this, but also working with Toronto Fire Services, the insurance companies, to get advice on how this looks like. What we heard from tenants is if TCHC is looking to do this, we need to have the spaces safe and accessible. There's been few instances, and Miguel alluded to it earlier, of theft and vandalism for these bikes. So we want to make sure that if for any parking solution that we implement, that it works both for TCHC and the tenants.
Okay. And one further question was just in terms of monitoring, and I guess there were in here very clear guidelines for batteries and what sort of batteries, all that sort of thing. You know, how do you ultimately know that the guidelines are being followed? How do you find out? I mean, obviously, you don't want to be constantly on people, but it seemed to me that, and maybe it's because I don't know, I don't have any bike and I don't know anything about them, but maybe it's just basic information, but it seemed quite technical in some ways to me. So it was just a query about monitoring and ensuring that everybody is aware and following the guidelines, because you know, we don't need any more fires or other hazards in the building.
Absolutely. So I think this will be a work in progress. I think this will be a dance between a coordination between the site staff who identify these batteries and devices, but also our internal fire life safety team, who would be more closely attached to the information, the technical information related to these. So I think it's going to be a collaboration of both. That's going to be a key part of the training that we're currently putting together, is how to actually identify these devices moving forward.
Okay, thank you. All right, then, I guess if there are no more questions, I would ask for a motion to receive this and send it off to the board.
This is approval, actually.
Thank you, to approve it and send, I will get it right, yeah? To approve it and send it off to the board, is that right? Okay, that's what I'm asking for then, a motion to that effect. Oh, yeah, Director Douglas, thank you. And show of hands to approve that motion. Everybody in favor? Super. Okay. Thank you. So that's approved then. Great. Okay. then the next, and we still don't have Kathy Birch, right? Well, I guess we'll,
Up here.
okay. Okay. We have Avila, Miguel, yes. Oh, he's here? Okay, all right then. Yes, that's it, yeah, they're all present, thank you. All right then, for the next item, that's 7C, which is a tenant engagement system. We have 3 deputations. 2 of them are in person, and 1 is online. That's Ms. Birch, but she hasn't appeared yet. So,
she
oh,
is
she
there.
is? Oh, she is
I'm
there,
here.
of course, sorry. I'm getting confused. Yes, so why don't we start with you then, Ms. Birch, okay?
Good morning, thank you. This time I'm here as a tenant, not as chair of RPAT. I want to tell you that for my community, there has been insignificant communication from our CSC as to what this model looks like, and make sure that we understood what the model looks like and what is gonna take place in this new model of engagement program. I'm not sure that everybody understands it, although we've had people move forward to run as representatives. I'm not sure everybody, or even most of my community, even understands it, because it's been up to the tenants to seek out the information about this program rather than it being delivered to our into our communities. I'm not satisfied with how this has been brought forward, and yet elections are taking place anyway. And I know I've come to this committee before stating that there was not enough information to my community, and I still feel that way. And yet I've gone to my regional manager, and it was excuses of, oh, the CSC's changed and this person's off, that person's off. If we don't have the manpower to deliver the information to the communities, they should not be moving forward with elections. Tenants should be informed instead of being worried about deadlines. If they don't have the manpower, then they need to bring it forward and say, hey, we haven't gotten enough information out to the tenants. I do feel that way, because I will tell you that until I went to our COO, I did not get enough information. And I, as a tenant, feel that I shouldn't have to go all the way up the ladder to my COO in order to get the information. It shouldn't be after me to chase it. If the corporation is making changes, it's up to the corporation to deliver the information to the tenants in multiple ways, not up to us to chase after it. Oh, go to this link, go to that link, go do this and go do that. No, you bring it to us. So I will say, the way that this is structured with our the person, the staff and management that's in charge of the programming of engagement, I believe that the CSCs and their managers should be under that person, not under our regions. There's a big disconnect there, and I think that's part of the problem. I also feel that we don't have enough CSCs to deliver this kind of programming effectively, because all it takes is for one person to be off and communities get abandoned. I do feel that, like, that's happened here for my community and a few others until very recently, and I mean within the last week to 10 days. And yet this has been ongoing for a while now. I should not have to go to Nadia to get help. And the regional managers pass it on down to the engagement managers. And if they're off for whatever reason, whether it be vacation or, or they're off sick, whatever the case may be, the world should not stop just because somebody's off. Nor should, just because you change CSCs for the handoff to be so poor, that the information is not given out. So I need you to be aware of this yet again. This is, like I say, this is not my first time deputing on this. I'm disappointed in how this has been delivered, and I wanted you to know that. As I've lived in Toronto housing for a couple of decades, and I was a tenant rep for many, many years, and I really feel this failed. So thank you very much for your time, and it's not always good news, Mary.
Okay. Yeah, I understand that, and hopefully we can make it better in terms of good news. But I appreciate your submissions. Thank you. I gather as well, and I know Mr. Avila and Mr. Fayed. So why don't we have Mr. Fayed up? Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Excuse me, Madam Chair.
So it's clear, the sound?
Questions?
Yes, of course. I'm sorry, Director McIntyre. I didn't. Again, I'm learning too. So yes, if you wouldn't mind just waiting a moment, Mr. Fayed, and I'm going to give Director McIntyre an opportunity to ask Ms. Birch some questions. All right, Ms. Birch, are you still there, I hope?
I am.
Great, okay. Director McIntyre has some questions for you. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you so much for your presentation, Ms. Birch. I hope maybe I could meet you sometime, hear a little bit more. As a new director, this topic is extremely interesting to me and extremely important to me. So I'm trying to learn and get some feedback and all that. I'm hoping the election process goes well, but I'm keeping an eye on things. Do you find the way the system is structured to be just a little too complicated for the tenant community?
I think it's misaligned because we went through a restructuring not too long ago, and it wasn't working, so they had to change some major parts of it. And I understand when you're shifting staff, I'm involved a lot in this corporation as a tenant, and I understand that. I just happen to think that it's been a problem with our CSC, sorry for the acronym, but that's Community Service Coordinators that are supposed to be out in our communities and stuff. For my community, for instance, they changed the CSC not too long ago, and yet I've not seen him actually be active in our community since he's been here. My regional, not my regional manager, but my engagement manager has been off and on. And if you don't have the manpower to deliver everything, then that needs to be noted, and you need to push timelines back so that you can get the information out. And unfortunately, regularly with this corporation, what I find that happens is they set the deadline, and that's what it's going to be, whether they get enough information out or not. And they put the onus on the tenants to come and get the information rather than for us to have it delivered to us. The corporation's making the changes, not us. It's up to them to deliver it to us. So I think the structure is wrong, and it needs to be the person and position that's required to develop and build this program. I'm not even sure of what Pablo's title is, quite honestly. I believe that the people who deliver it should answer to him, not into our regional managers. I think that would be more effective, and part of that restructuring has left those staff members, I believe, in the wrong place. And I believe that's part of the gap. But we just plain don't have enough CSCs to deliver all the information and to meet the expectations of that job title as CSC. And no matter how much I scream for it and hammer and push for it, it doesn't seem to happen. And we have a lot of tenants who do not have the digital awareness or a capacity to just, oh, well, go to this link and read about it, or, you know, we have a lot of seniors who want nothing to do with computers still. You know, I'm a senior as well, and I will tell you, I have more capacity for some digital things, but this old lady's not climbing into the cloud for nobody, including this corporation. So, you know, if that would be the case, if they put it in a cloud type situation, I just think that they can do better. And if the information is not getting out, you should not be sticking to an election date, no matter whether the information is out there or not. I think they have a responsibility to have informed tenants, and that's the bottom line of it.
Thank you. I hope we can have a discussion again sometime, and I could learn.
I usually am in person. It's just that I've got a really, I'm usually there in person. It's just that I've got a really bad cold, and none of you want this, believe me. That's why I sound like a bullfrog today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Director McIntyre, anything else? No? All right, any other questions then of Ms. Birch? No? I don't see anything online. All right, then. We'll go back to you, Mr. Fayed, and thank you for waiting.
Yes, thank you very much. So, good morning. In this deputation on item 7C, I will focus on section Tenant Council on page 3, specifically on the statement, establish a fair, diverse, and inclusive election process for the October 2025 citywide election. It's clear that the Tenant Election Council process this year is organized, and the management, including the engagement team, supports the election and the campaign process to make it fair, diverse. However, there are some exceptions, and specifically the superintendents who participate in some candidates' campaign and verbally harass other outspoken candidates. I hope that this issue should be addressed in order to achieve the fairness goal of the election process. I would like to also comment on Ms. Birch about the digital. Even if I have been a long time with digital and computer, I have problem with the Canva, because other candidate made excellent Canva. So it took me 6-7 days. I have to pay money, and now I am struggling to make another Canva. So, yeah, but my focus here in this deputation is on the interference or participation of the superintendents in the election. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Again, are there any questions of Mr. Fayed? Okay, I'm not seeing any. Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Much appreciated. All right, and then Mr. Avila, Miguel? Oh, I was just talking to Miguel. Yes, come forward. Thanks. So we'll come back to your other item, but for this engagement system.
All right. Thanks for opportunity to speak on this item, the tenant engagement quarterly update, engage together update. I was a participant at the presentation by Social Planning Toronto, and it was very informative, well prepared. I think they covered a lot of questions that deputants and activists has always asked TCHC. And the most important part I found is that we have funding for capacity building, training for future leaders. And it's just the CSCs, the community service coordinators, they need to promote it. Every time there is a tenant circle meeting, being approached by tenants to run for tenant council, and I told them, no, I am not going to do it. I would prefer rather to invest my time into developing new tenants that can take my job from me, because I've been doing this job for 15 years and not getting any younger. So we want to develop those new leaders, but one of the questions that discourage many people to perhaps to participate is this question that is on the screen over there. The Tenant Council is not a forum for addressing building-specific maintenance or operational concerns. Those are addressed through integrated team meetings between staff and tenant leaders of the local building, townhouse community level. So I don't know if we are diminishing the freedom of speech or expression of our tenant council members. I'm critical that we are limiting what we can discuss at these council meetings, because everybody knows maintenance issues are #1 priority besides security, safety, mental health, et cetera, So not covering that part is what scares me. We learned that last month that we have a $12 billion state of good repair, and I don't know how we will address this issue in the tenant council, how we can talk about maintenance issues. I would like to know who are those integrated team meetings that I can participate, because I want to bring the issues of maintenance, since my tenant council representative won't do it for me. That is the biggest concern. And in the meantime, my community or in Regent Park, we are promoting education for our tenants. Let me see if I can find the flyer. Here it is. We're trying to empower tenants in the knowledge of the engagement in regards to learning about the legal system, the legal justice system, because we know that DAC 4 cut funding for the legal Legal Aid Ontario, and we don't have proper funding to address issues that concern us, like maintenance, evictions, renovation, et cetera. So we're trying to educate our tenants. This is the first opportunity that the Ministry of Justice is funding this program, and we are going to be educating tenants in the rise of housing. And that is all I had to say about this engagement system update. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Just looking here, I'm not seeing any. Thank you very much, sir. All right. Go ahead then. I assume, Nadia, you have some overall comments, do you?
Happy to make opening remarks or throw it straight to questions from the committee. I'm
Okay.
at your leisure.
I'd make some remarks, and then we'll take any questions. Sure.
Absolutely. So just let me get this situated here. At its meeting of December 12th, 2024, the Board of Directors of TCHC approved a new tenant engagement system. The Engage Together model is the product of many months of work between staff and tenants and reflects the perspectives and feedback from tenants on changes that they felt would make the system more responsive and participatory. So over the last, I would say, 2 years, we had a review of the system. We brought in a consultant who actually went and spoke to several tenant groups in their communities as well as staff. And based on those recommendations, that's where we ended up with the current Engage Together model. Since our last Tenant Services Committee in April, staff have been working with tenants to implement the system and its components. At the building or townhouse community level, tenant circles have been meeting to define their local priorities, with over 52% of communities having held at least one tenant circle meeting by the end of Q2. Sorry, just get back. Tenant circles are where tenants will access LIFT funding, which began to roll out in July after the board approved a new tenant-directed funding policy and LIFT procedures. Over 260 initiatives have been approved for tenant action funds. since the beginning of the year. Also, our tenant action fund will be rolled into LIFT in the beginning of 2026. Every region held tenant community action tables, and that's the larger citywide forum that is open to all tenants of the region. And over 300 tenants had the opportunities to hear from and engage with our mayor, Olivia Chow, on engaging the community and addressing community issues. The next round of tenant community action tables will be held in November. Over 400 tenants responded to the call for applications for the Citywide Tenant Advisory Committee and the newly formed Youth Tenant Advisory Committee. The TAC and the YTAC held their first meetings in September. Elections for members of tenant councils opened on August 5th, 2025, with voting taking place on October 14th, 15th, and 16th. Once elections have concluded, tenant councils in each district will begin to meet in November. So at this point, Pablo, who is the Director of Tenant Engagement, and myself will be happy to take any questions. I will do a couple of overarching comments. We do take outreach and communication quite seriously, and through this process we've sent door-to-door information. So we've actually done a mail out to every single household about the tenant engagement system and the election process. We've done building postering as well as emails, as well as communication with tenants. I do acknowledge that some tenants may not have felt that the communication went as far as possible, but I do want to point out that in the building in question that one of the deputants spoke about, we have an election with 3 candidates running. So I think the information has got out, but we do recognize that as we move forward with the system, we need to think of other ways to get information to all tenants. So that's important. The other thing I do want to acknowledge is we have communicated and we work with our frontline staff to ensure that they know that their involvement or interference with any sort of elective process is inappropriate. So if there's an individual circumstances where that has happened, we do investigate and we take it quite seriously. But I would say as a whole, we've heard really positive feedback about how the frontline staff are supporting the relevant candidates for the election process. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you. All right. Any questions from members of the committee?
It's Debbie. I had one question for Nadia, but you actually answered it before I asked the question around the accusation of superintendents interfering in the election process. So good to know that you are proactively paying attention to that and that you are following up. And hopefully the tenants will now know that you are paying attention to this.
Any others? No? I guess my only question would be, when I was trying myself to understand the system, I must say I found it a little bit complicated to sort out the various levels. And, you know, and I guess it's new, I gather, so you will find out. But my concern would be obviously that the grassroots tenants, so to speak, if I can use that term, know where to go to get their voices heard, and that we're somehow still able to engage them. I often think just, you know, being in buildings and talking to people and finding out what their concerns is often a good way to check the temperature of things, and that shouldn't be forgotten. So just wondering about the complications and the structures. As I said, I had difficulties.
So through the chair, absolutely. You'll notice on page 92 of your package, it sort of has the visual of the system. What we heard loud and clear from tenants is they didn't want a hierarchical system because they recognize that different people, depending on where they're at in their individual circumstances and lives and level of engagement, wanted to be able to participate in different ways. So in the system, we have 2 opportunities through the tenant circle for grassroots input giving and mobilization. That's at a building or community level, where tenants can participate as they go on. They can come to one meeting, they can come consistently to the meeting. So those are advertised for local participation. We do hear a lot of feedback there, and that is supported by local staff. We also have the tenant community action tables, which are the larger events at a regional level, where we typically bring some of our corporate teams and other third-party stakeholders to get tenant feedback. So there's 2 opportunities for tenants who don't want to be part of the formalized system to engage with us and give us their feedback. Obviously, obviously, and Mr. Avila pointed out, we do have integrated team meetings, and that is at a local building and community level. And so that's with your local superintendent, your community service coordinator, your tenant services coordinator, and that team is able to hear individual concerns and grievances. But we're always open to receiving feedback from tenants at a local level. The other two elements of the system that are a little bit more formal is the tenant council. We have moved back to a more formal recognition of individuals through the election or acclamation process to join the tenant council. The reason why that came back is we had, the system before this was a little bit more open, allowing tenants and groups to self-organize. And we did find that there were difficulties in certain communities with tenants feeling heard and escalating their concerns to a management level. And so we wanted to formalize a mechanism where tenants could actually hear about some of the changes and updates from management, but also have representation to bring forth their concerns. So it's not to suggest you couldn't bring up issues in your community. We just acknowledge that we wouldn't want to say, okay, this pipe is broken here. Like the meetings are supposed to be a little bit more about topics and concerns as opposed to individual issues. So that's the only reason why we've articulated it in that way. So that's the formal piece. And then the other piece is the Tenant Advisory Committee, which requires an application process. So the tenant councils and the Tenant Advisory Committee are the only two elements that require a mechanism to get you either elected or appointed. But tenant circles and the tenant community action tables are open to all tenants.
All right. Thank you. Anything else? No? All right, then I guess I'll be asking for a motion to receive this report for the committee's information.
I'd like to motion that, please.
Okay. Thank you. And all in favor? Yes? Okay. It's approved then, thank you. Okay. Then we're moving on to implementation of the youth. Was that was already approved, wasn't it? Yes, okay. Wasn't held. So we're down then to violence reduction program, and then we'll come back to item 5 for, okay. All right, then if we could go to item 7E.
There's a deputation.
Pardon?
There's a deputation.
Yeah. Sir? Yeah, okay, thank you. All right, then we have 2 deputations on this. We'll start with you, Miguel, because we didn't start with you the last time, so sure.
Could you repeat again? I'm hard to hear. What item are we talking?
We're talking about 7E, which is the violence reduction program update.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Okay? Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry.
Take your time, it's all right.
All right, in front of you is description of the CPLC 51 division. The Community Police Liaison Committee is made up of community volunteers and police services representatives from the 51 divisions geographic area. Why am I talking about the CPLC? Because at the last meeting, a friend of mine who is a resident from the condominiums mentioned to me that in the discussions they were talking about the number of thefts, bike break-ins, auto thefts, et cetera, robberies. And they say that it seems that all this crime activity seems to be very close to TCHC buildings. So my friend said, Miguel, they're talking about your building at the CPLC. Oh, okay, that's interesting. So they say that according to the police service, they're saying that it seems that the program of having residents with a lot of problems in the building, 220 Oak, for instance, they said it's much easier to find them when they to know where they live. That's interesting. To my surprise and knowledge, I didn't know that TPS knows that the main focus of people that are creating trouble are from my building. Anyhow, it's not for me to judge them. So, but there's another side of the story. There's good people living in the building. Very nice people that I know them for years and years and years. And all they want is to enjoy the units. But because of the rehoming housing strategy of their housing secretariat, we're receiving an influx of new residents coming from the shelters and encampments, avoiding and not going through the transitional housing, which allows them to be educated, to be informed, how to live in peace with the other residents of the building to reduce the violence. Right now, what we have in the building is noises, problem with noises, because there are many residents who are awake during the night. And for some of us, we are used to this life, coming to work in the morning, go to school, and for us, it's important to sleep 8 hours. For many residents, they don't speak up, but they said to me, Miguel, go to the TCHC, explain to them that transitional housing is priority for TCHC before bringing in new residents from the shelters and encampments. Tell them that, because it's becoming a Wild West. We're having people doing whatever they want, and no one is taking attention to it. We know that the Housing Secretariat has said there is funding for wraparound services, for mental health supports, but in reality that is not really easy to understand. How deep or how big is this help going to these residents so they can adapt to live with the old residents who are aging in place. And this rehoming housing strategy should not be at the expense of the lives of those who have lived in the building for years and years and years in peace. But lately, our temper, our patience is running low, and sometimes we speak out, we say things, and maybe we do things that are incorrect. And for that, it's natural. If you live in your home and you are disturbed every day at 2 o'clock in the morning, I bet you will not behave in this way today, right now, because you will say something, or you will call the police, you will do something. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll have a discussion.
Mr. Fayed? Oh, sorry, I didn't ask. My apologies. First of all, I'm learning. Are there any questions of Mr. Avila in terms of his presentation? Am I seeing any? No. All right, then, thank you. All right.
So I fully understand what Miguel's saying.
Yeah, okay. You know, Mr. Fayed, come up. You're doing a deputation in any event, so why don't you incorporate that in so we're not in a three-way conversation here.
Thank you very much. So I fully understand what Miguel say, because it is suffering from all our buildings. The legality, they still e-bike or still bike, they change the color, then they sell it. A lot of illegal activities. So yes, it caused trouble. One time I attended a meeting not far to us. The city was going to build a new housing, affordable housing, just 80% of the market income. The people there, they want to sell their houses just because they know what would happen to them. So yes, I understand exactly what Miguel said. If there's any other questions, then I will go to my deputation after you give me the
I think go to
papers.
your deputation would be good.
I can go?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. So good morning. It is item 7E. My deputation on item 7E, Violence Reduction Program Update, will focus on the update on the transition section on page 2 In this paragraph, we read that the Community Safety Unit, CSU, and the Programs and Partnership, PAP, team are central to this transition. As we see, there is a connection between safety and programs and partnership. However, some partners focus on just the food banks and don't offer any other programs that help in reducing violence. They work in our local communities and they don't have the capacity or any initiative to offer programs that address the violence and illegal activities that are associated with it. We propose working together with the partners to find solutions or establish programs. However, it is very hard to communicate with them or achieve anything on the ground. We complain to TCHC staff and managers, and no discussion or any initiative or solution. I would like to point out, lastly, that the relationship between some superintendents and the partners marginalize entirely the role of the representatives and the leaders in coordinating with the partners, especially if the superintendent has an excellent relationship with the drug dealers and the illegal activities in our building. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, are there any questions of Mr. Fayed? Not seeing any. All right, thank you very much. All right then, go ahead, sure. Pardon me? Let's go ahead.
Did you want me to share some comments about the report, or?
Yes, I think that would be useful.
Sure.
Thank you.
So I will start by saying this report provides an update on the work of the Community Safety Unit and the Programs and Partnerships team to support community safety through the framework of the Violence Reduction Program. For historical context, this was a program I believe initiated about 4 years ago that focused on some of our highest needs communities. We've since seen an evolution of that work to recognize that there's different contributing factors to vulnerability, and so our focus now is shifting more to a more holistic strategy approach, looking at our high needs communities and what responses are required. So the report just outlines that we continue to transition, and we'd heard comments both from this committee and from tenants that the violence reduction program was too narrow to address some of the larger systemic issues, and so we're going to be evolving and moving that program into the core business, but really focusing on high needs communities and having a bit more of a nimble strategy to address issues as they come up. The program had quite a few merits, and we're going to be speaking about that in an upcoming report to conclude the program, but we also recognize that it was a bit static and it hadn't moved as quickly with the trending, and so we need to have a more nimble approach, and that's what we'll be focusing on in our upcoming community safety strategy. So I would say this is the second to last report. We will be bringing a concluding report to the first Tenant Services Committee of 2025. That will be a bit of a retrospective, acknowledge some of the opportunities and benefits of the program, but also acknowledging there were significant challenges with it and why we're moving away from that. I will also comment that our frontline staff work really hard every day, and I recognize we're not able to always please all tenants, but I will say that any concerns around corruption and working with problematic tenancies we take quite seriously. And although I won't get into specifics about the situation, I can assure the committee that we have followed up and taken everything that we've heard quite seriously. And at this point, I'm not confident that there's concerns with that community. I think there's lots going on, but I will say that we are following up and working directly with the staff and the tenants.
Thank you. Any questions? No? Just for my own information, I know in the material there was an indication that there is a comprehensive community safety strategy being developed, and that's, at least from what I see here, to go to the board in December of this year. Is that correct?
So through the chair, we are actively working on developing a community safety strategy. We will be discussing it at length at the board in October. We are initiating a community engagement process with the tenants. I don't believe the information has gone out quite yet, but we'll be holding sessions. I think they're doing 5 sessions that will be open to all tenants to participate. And currently I'm working to engage staff to get their input into the strategy. So we will be bringing something back, and we're hoping that that will be the strategy we can then report on outside of the context of violence reduction specifically, because that only focused on specific communities, and this strategy will look at overall what we're doing and whether we're having legitimate impact in supporting tenants.
Okay. So that's, you're saying, in fact, is going to the October meeting of the board? Not
So there's an update to the board in October, and we will be bringing the overall strategy to the board in the public session in December.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, anything further? All right, then I guess I'd be asking for a motion to receive this information and forward the report to the board for its information.
Through the chair, this report doesn't go to the board, the Violence Reduction Program report.
Okay, well, I take that back.
Historically, it stays at this table.
I was reading here from something, so, all right, so it's just for our information at this point, and I know, as you indicated, you are going to be providing information to the board itself later on, so yes, I stand corrected. Thank you. All right, then, if I could have a motion simply to, I guess, receive and approve this report at this level, okay, the Tenant Services Committee. Director McIntyre is so moved. Everyone in favor? Yes, I'm seeing, okay, approved, thank you. And now I guess we're going to circle back, I think, to item 5, right? For Mr. Avila to give his deputation on that matter. And I believe there was another deputant, but she has not appeared, right? That's right, okay, thank you. Yes, that was Catherine Wright, am I correct? Yes, okay. Whenever you're ready, sir, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I found here from 2018, and the writer of this article is Joy Connelly. Joy Connelly is a prominent housing activist. She's been missing from these meetings, I think out of age. She's not able to come, but sometimes she shows up at City Hall. Joe Connelly made a story about the swapping units. And I read that there are some presumptions or in this denial of the policy for swapping units. It seems that new practices or new behaviors of fraud artists could take advantage of this program and use it for their own benefit. I want to know that where did they get the idea that all residents are scam artists? I don't know. This is my understanding, reading the pros and the cons, done by the lawyers, of course, by the legal team. You know what is missing is having a citywide tenant consultation on swapping units. So don't let it yet close the door on this item, swapping units, because there is another problem that I mentioned early is the relocation of residents out of 220 Oak, for instance, Regent Park. We are trying to address this problem by canvassing. Here's a group of residents of Regent Park happily going door to door and talking to residents, and we're trying to see what are the solutions, because they said, I don't want to put my name on the waiting list for internal transfer. It takes so long. My children, they said, are moving out to Mississauga. They're moving out of the city. I think there is value in not closing the door yet. Allow the residents to speak on this matter, and then you can have a vote before, and don't close the door, because Ms. Connelly, in her article, has some interesting suggestions. I would recommend that you guys to read it, if it's possible. I think my story just went out the screen. The internet is very bad today, so apologies for that. Oh, there it comes again. Read the comments on her story, because there are some important facts that goes back to the days of Ontario Housing Corporation, that is, I believe, or Metro Housing. Those are the entities that facilitated the swapping of units back then. So 2025 could be the solution for the displacement of residents from living in Regent Park. Their sons and daughters are being moved out of the hood. They're told you have to live in the Scarborough, you have to live in the Etobicoke, but you don't have a place in the hood. We have become the minority. We used to be the majority at Regent Park in 2006. Now we are 30%. I don't have nothing against my market residents. I welcome them, but we should do something about it. Don't close the door. That's my message for you. Don't yet allow this good idea close down without you understanding, Joe Connelly, understanding of swapping units, which will benefit many Toronto residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Before you go, are there any questions, Mr. Avila? Director McIntyre?
So there was a slide you showed that DBA and DVC numbers. What was that? I didn't get what that slide was about.
The slides you're saying? Can you repeat that again?
So through the chair, Miguel, I think you had shared an image. You had shared an image on the screen, and it said DBA and DBB. It looked like.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
He's asking for clarification on that.
This is a new technology that I'm becoming very familiar about, testing of noises inside units. It's a new technology that measures, collects information of that what noises you heard during the night. And that is my situation. These microphones allowed to provide with two streams of data. One is the high decibels, one is the vibrations, what you hear, what is interesting is that this technology will help other residents who are having problems at nighttime. And to understand that my complaints to the CSU, as I mentioned earlier, we need to reduce the violence in the buildings. Well, this technology will reveal that proper accommodations could be done, like soundproofing of units. If a resident experiences 85 decibels at night, my friend, 85 decibels is harmful in the long run. I lost hearing on both ears. My mental and physical health is out of the charts right now. I'm crazy. But so this technology.
I just didn't understand.
Okay, so I'll let you. We can talk offline if you want. I can.
All right, thank you. Anything else arising out of that? No? All right, thank you very much, Mr. Vila. There was one other deputation received from Catherine Wright, and she has not appeared either online or in person. I do have a question, though, because I read what she sent us, and it had to do with concerns around turning off the air conditioning as of October the 1st. And I can understand with the weather these days why there might be a concern. And I guess I would just direct that question, and I'm not sure to whom, but I will direct it generally here and ask what information you might have and the reason behind this.
Thanks for the question, and through the chair. The shoulder seasons are always a difficult one, right? We're always either switching over perceptionally too early, and we end up having we end up having, the need for cooling when the buildings have switched to heating, right? This is something we try to balance. It's part of our preventative maintenance. We have a legislative requirement, I believe, with the city to switch over by a certain date in October as well. So we try our best to make sure we're ready for the winter season, and that sometimes creates a couple of weeks in the shoulder season where we're accommodating to keep tenants comfortable.
Okay, so essentially what you're saying is that there are all sorts of factors coming into play and deadlines that have to be met so that people can have heat, for example, when they need it and whatever. And that's really why this deadline has been.
That's exactly it. And we'd rather be on this side of things than the other.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Yes, Mr. Director.
I actually had a comment and a suggestion, which is, this is a topic, the air conditioning topic is very important tenants right now with global warming and everything else. I was glad to see we have a policy. In fact, I read the city bylaw. I know it goes to September 30th now. I'm wondering if perhaps we could have I know there was a policy passed a couple of years ago when my meeting with Sean. I wonder if we could have something at the next TSC meeting or perhaps one after that, with a fulsome report on the status of air conditioning in our units, issues surrounding air conditioning, possible future improvements in our units that don't have air conditioning. Just something to work with.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll say through the chair, it's a good point and something that's come up piecemeal perhaps in various discussions we've had with the board and with this committee. So we'd be happy to take that away and put together a more fulsome report. We can look at our current practices around air conditioning like Noah just spoke to, but we can also look at how many buildings have access to air conditioning, how many don't, what we think some of the implications of that are going forward. So we can certainly bring that back. I'll have to work with the team in terms of timing, in terms of how quickly we can bring it back, but it's an important topic and happy to dig into it in detail.
Okay, great. Go ahead. Anything further? No. Okay, all right, thank you for that question. And all right, then we can expect something at a future meeting, right? Yes. All right. So I don't think I have to do anything further then with motion to adjourn. Just the motion to adjourn. Sorry, any other business? All right, thank you. That's right, you told me that, yes. All right, so I need then a motion to receive item 5. So can I have that motion? Director McAdie, yes, I'm looking here. You're the other in-person individual here, so all right. All in favor? Okay, thank you. All right, that's approved then. And then I guess I would, there isn't any other business. I asked about that. So could I have a motion then to adjourn this public meeting?
Actually,
oh, there is. I'm sorry.
I had one other thing I wanted to raise.
Yes, Director McIntyre. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say that I saw some of the media coverage from the other day, October 1st, the Don Somerville thing. Sean came across very, very well, and just it was positive, the media stuff I saw, and congratulations, and let's do some more of that.
Thank you, and I would second that. I was there, and the building is wonderful. It's a great model, and everyone was so upbeat and so happy about it. So yes, again, as you say, congratulations to all of you. It was a great day, and a great achievement, actually. So we just need to move forward, I guess, and do more of that, but yes, lots more, as Sean says. All right, then. I didn't actually get the final vote on the motion to adjourn. I don't think we got there. So everybody in favor for the public meeting? Yes, okay. Meeting is adjourned then, and thank you. And I just want to say thank you so much. I want to say it during the public meeting for those who came, and also thank you so much for the support by the staff that I have had so far, and people nudging me and telling me what to do. So I'll get better, I promise. Okay, thank you.
So we just need 5 minutes or so now to switch everything over?
Yes, I'll take a short break then while we switch over to the in-camera. Okay, thank you.